Yes, here we are once again. Of course, if you're watching live, it means it is a Wednesday at noon Eastern time, which is always time for the High Noon Hemp Show. Big show today, as always, every week, bring you the hemp news and the information and the entertainment and all that stuff that we bring to you. If you want to watch it live or video on demand for that matter, you can do so in many places. Temptations Beach Facebook page, the Jedi Hemp YouTube channel, and at Temptations on Twitter. The podcast, good news in the podcast arena. We have not been accepted yet by Apple Podcasts, but we are now on Spotify.
Ooh.
Spotify, just search the High Noon Hemp Show. You can see it on iHeartRadio or listen to it rather on iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Podbean as well. Just search the High Noon Hemp Show. See if we can add some more podcasting platforms in the near future after our success with Spotify. It's a big day. I'm Stoner Jesus. He is Beach, high above the Temptations in Sharonville, Ohio. The Hemp Quarters. Beach, how are things this week in the world of Temptations?
Hey, we're on Spotify now.
That's
Come
right.
on. Things are moving on up because we're moving on up. Hope everybody enjoyed my Queen wave there in memories of the Queen passing. Not that matters anything to the High Noon Hemp Show. It doesn't. But that is a default wave of mine, to be honest with you. It's the old parade wave.
There you
go. Just remember, folks, welcome to the High Noon Hemp Show. It is true. I am high above the Sharonville location. We are here to give you all the hemp goods every week. And remember, the FDA has not evaluated this show for safety or efficacy. Just so you know. Excuse me. Got to get that out, I suppose, before the show starts. Well, let's just jump right into the product spotlight. We got a bunch of good news, mostly good news out there coming up later, but let's get right to the product spotlight. The first being the Versa. Now, Versa products, these are smokables. You've got a filtered and a cone, but this is actually CBG. And now, if you're not too familiar with CBG is kind of coming on. It's kind of more coming on as your daytime CBD use as well. I think it has, we're finding from our customers and what I'm seeing out there that CBG has the same, mostly the same effects as CBD. But maybe a little bit better for daytime use. Maybe not quite as calming, even though the right dose of CBD really. It's not like you use CBD and you're like, going to go to sleep. That's not the way it works. But I think we are finding kind of CBG is more promoting it more as a daytime thing. With getting most of the same benefits that you get from CBD. So. Speaking of CBD, of course, we just got a fresh batch of, we're always usually getting a fresh batch of just CBD gummies in. These are super popular because the price point is really good. They just CBD got in trouble probably 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a long time. They were one of the first bigger, I think, mass marketing gummy companies for sure. And then they got in a little bit of trouble for not quite doing what they were saying they were supposed to be doing, and now are hopefully doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now these are super popular, and I think that they do contain the CBD that they're supposed to contain, and again with a really good price point, no doubt about it. Here is the wall of bags that we currently have in Sharonville. I really wanted to take this picture for more than one reason. You can see the bags there, but then you get that eco market temptations. So the first year the first year we vended at Bunbury, which is where that banner comes from, we were actually a part of the eco market section of Bunbury. And I don't know if they still do that or don't do that. But I've always loved that banner one way or nothing, because nothing says Temptations more than eco market. Everything hemp is part of the eco market. We could call ourselves, I've never even thought about calling ourselves an eco market before. Today, I can't believe that. Usually I describe the stores as department stores or general goods because we have so much of a range of products. at Hemptations. But maybe we'll just start calling ourselves Hemptations Eco Market. I like it.
Right?
That kind of has a ring to it. I can't believe I'm just now thinking of that. 27 years in, folks. We just celebrated our 27th anniversary at Temptations, and always thinking of new things because I can't not do things. Always moving forward. If we're going sideways, we're going backwards, in my opinion. So there you have it. That's the wall of bags currently located in the Sharonville location. Here is some sparkling water we've recently added to the lineup. It's called Wild. It has 25 milligrams of CBD. As you can see, comes in 4 delicious flavors. I don't know if they're delicious. I think I've only tried the lemon, the citrus, which I did like. Uh, and so it looks like there's an orange and all kinds of good stuff. So get into one of the stores and try a Wild 25 milligram CBD sparkling water. Big market. Still a huge market for sparkling water out there. CBD sparkling water. It's very popular. Last week, or the week before, I think it was, I talked about, or I wore my Datsusua shorts, and I talked about my fanny pack. This is the officially called the Joe Rogan utility bag or fanny pack. If you don't know, I don't know, it's probably about 5 years ago at least, Joe Rogan did his best to bring back the fanny pack. He was, I think he was working solely on his own in the world. And they were actually popular for, I mean, I will have to say he definitely was part of the somewhat fanny pack comeback, and they're still, semi popular. We get fanny packs in the stores. They do still tend to sell. This is the one that I used, and of course I took this picture 6 years ago, so I've had this fanny pack for 6 years. I took a picture this morning of my actual. Oh, that's it still. But currently what it looks like, and you can see it's used. But for some reason the picture didn't come out. It's so weird. I've never had this happen before, and I don't know why I didn't notice it when I took the picture. But anyway, that is my bag. That was a bag I carried around California because it was perfect. I could still put my good 35 millimeter camera in there, my phone, anything else. You can put it around your waist, and it's like padded, like around the front of your waist, or you can I used it mostly kind of as a sling bag too. So I just, put it over my shoulder, and it hung on my shoulder really well. So there you have it from my door, my Joe Rogan, that Sosoa fanny pack. I'm not really sure I'm still not sure the complete pronunciation of the bags, but as I said before last week when I was talking about their company the week before, great, unbelievably, really great products related to the fight world. They do gis. They started out, their bags were really made because of the antimicrobial properties, antibacterial properties of hemp, and putting your workout gear in your bag and whatnot. It just seemed like the logical material for them to use. And I'd venture to say they're going on at least 10 years strong. I don't know when they first came out, maybe 15 years ago, but still have a full line of added products, towels, and some other stuff to their hemp lineup over there. So if you're ever looking for any of that kind of stuff, this is a great company. You just go to their website and check out what they've got in stock. It's not cheap, but once again, if I've been carrying one of their backpacks almost every day for 5 years probably as well. I probably bought my backpack about the same time I got this bag possibly. So at least 6 years ago, and made that my daily backpack. And I carry probably it can go anywhere between 15 to 25 pounds worth of stuff in this backpack of mine because I'm it's kind of a Boy Scout mentality. I like to be prepared no matter where I go. So there you have it. 4 from the store, 1 from my door on the High Noon Hemp Show product spotlight.
Which, of course, brings us to the greatest segment internet history. I say it every week. It's true every week. It's where hemp, fashion, information, entertainment, all of that collides to one amazing segment we like to call the Beachwear segment, because I ask Beach a very important question, which I'm going to do right now when I ask, what are you wearing, Beach?
That's right. If you're curious, what are you wearing, Beach? To celebrate the beginning of the NFL season, although it did not go as well as we wanted it to for our Bengals. Still a lifelong fan. Not going to give up on them after first win game. And so, breaking out the old orange and black for my Cincinnati Bengals and my Heidelberg University student princes. I am an alumni. I was a student prince. I played basketball, not football. But our football team at Heidelberg University was a college when I went there. Is really really good Division III football. And so they are also orange and black, and it's the right orange. They're both Bengal orange, or yeah, I would call it, or Heidelberg orange. I don't know. Heidelberg's probably actually been around longer, and I don't know if our colors have always been orange and black in Heidelberg, but it's been around for about 100 years longer than the Bengals. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
One way or another. Um, on the old lid there, I've got a Hang 10 hat. My T-shirt is one of what I call a question mark T-shirt, because I don't remember originally where I got these really awesome orange, the right orange T-shirts long ago. It was printed with the Temptations University right here at Planet Everywhere Manufacturing. My shorts are Satori shorts. As you can see there in my pocket, I've got my Green Spring Technologies pen hanging out as usual. Underneath it all, got a pair of classic head case boxers with my Hemp Traders no-show socks, and all bringing it all together, protecting the old toes, are my Adidas shell toes. Um, so there you have it. If you love the Cincinnati Bengals and are still super excited about the future of the Cincinnati Bengals, um, then now you know what I can wear, what I wear when I celebrate the Bengals, the start of the season. Um, we have nowhere to go but up
That's right.
after the showing that was put on uh, last Sunday. And again, if you don't know here in Cincinnati, I mean, you should know, because we went to the Super Bowl last year, which was like super exciting, um, but not predicted or thought we were going to do at all. I keep saying that Burrow's got a couple more years, but here we go. That's it. That's all I got. That's unhemp related. All right, let's get on with the news. Nike is releasing. I've been talking about this Air Max 1. This is they're getting released tomorrow. So find your local online. Now, I did notice in the article that I found, and again, I get a lot of my news, my hemp news, and a couple sources. One of my main sources is Flipboard. So if you get the Flipboard app, you can actually Hemptations has a Flipboard page, and so you can subscribe to that page, and then you'll see all of the article, most of what I talk about. If that's where I get it, it'll be there. Now, there isn't this article about where you can go to get your Nike Air Max 1s if you want them. It is actually called the Hemp, and they do this a little bit here and there, but getting released tomorrow. And I know sneakers is, I think, the big one as far as apps or websites or something. So, and they're not cheap, of course, and they will probably not be able to buy because everyone gets in line and they steals them so they can go and put them on eBay for 4 times the amount, or hold on to them for a year and cause this huge demand. I just want a pair to wear. I love any type of hemp running shoe, period. That's why I love my Sauconys, um, for the most part. And again, love or hate Nike, they're trying to do the right thing environmentally and uh, I think in manufacturing these days. And Air Maxes are some of the most comfortable shoes ever made in the planet, if you ask me. That's just my personal opinion. So get them if you can. I might try. I don't know. We'll see. Might give it the best attempt I can if I can remember to do it. I might just have to set an alarm and then stand in line on the internet and then be utterly disappointed when I don't get a pair. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Um, Article 10 foods that will clean your arteries naturally and protect you from heart attacks. Number three, good old hemp. Hemp contains vitamin E, which keeps platelets from sticking together. Helps the blood flow, not clogging up the arteries. It also has your ALA omega 3s and arginine, which obviously arginine, well, not obviously because I don't even know what arginine really is. So I shouldn't say obviously. Um, but apparently arginine helps with blood flow as well. So obviously that's good for your heart. If you have blood pressure issues, of course, we've been talking a lot about CBD and blood pressure. So investigate that. Talk to your doctor about using CBD, a natural substance, if you have high blood pressure as well. But this is just hemp seed, another reason to add hemp seed foods to your diet, if you can. And there's more to come on that in the news on the High Noon Hemp Show right here, Wednesday, high noon. I'm doing promos now. Um, this is kind of cool. The Vermont Marble Museum. You're like, what? Marble Museum? What's that got to do with hemp? Well, the Vermont Marble Museum is getting a reprieve, so to speak. It's been closed for a couple years. The property was for sale, I guess, but it was kind of weird because they were trying to make this in a historical museum or something to try to preserve it. Well, it is going to get preserved, and it's going to get preserved by a company called the Zion Growers. Now, what they're going to be doing is they're buying the property with the agreement that the Marble Museum will stay, but they're going to use much of, and this is, the Marble Museum was part of the fact that this was a marble carving place, I guess, at one point or another for years and years and years until it closed. But they're going to use the rest of the building to process hemp into fiber for paper, textiles, and building materials. So, yet another old warehouse getting a second life due to hemp, and we've been seeing this a lot, honestly, over the last couple of years, and we're going to see more and more. Is buying old buildings and then making them into hemp processing centers. And so, that's what happened in Cleveland. And I don't think that place ever opened, but that was their intention. And, there's other places where hopefully these places will be successful. I might have to check into what happened to the company in Cleveland that had taken over an old manufacturing building. And they were supposed to and had a contract to make the straws for a fast food restaurant out in California, hemp straws. So I don't, I'm not sure whatever happened there. But we're definitely seeing more and more of these old manufacturing abandoned buildings and whatnot getting repurposed into hemp manufacturing. This is on the brilliant side because this is fiber oriented, and so they're going to take, and I bet there's, because I know they're growing for CBD in Vermont. I'm sure of that. That's a waste product in the CBD industry. So, you know, hopefully that's exactly where this is all coming about. Is they've got all these connections already, and so they're ready with the material to start making paper, or textiles, and building materials. Um, and hopefully, maybe go up there and visit and go to the Marble Museum. Fun.
Yeah.
Not that I'm big fan of carved rock. It's just, yeah, it took all the time to take this big huge rock out of the earth and chop it up and make the sculpture out of it. And you know, I don't know. It's not like there's a shortage of rocks. There isn't. There's probably becoming a shortage of marble as a rock. I don't know the economic or the environmental impact of rock removal, but they mine this stuff. Granite, it's all just chopped out of a big, huge mine, and so I know it's just rock. It's probably the least earth thing that we can bitch about using, I suppose. But I have probably 5 gravel pits, and I don't know how they still. I just don't know how they still make as much rock out of rock that they do these days. But right around me, because we're close to the river and close to some other rivers, and that's where a lot of rock and gravel, I don't know, come from, sand, all that stuff. But this is interesting. There was an article that finally gave me a little insight into China's hemp. Now, this was from 2018. I don't know where they really got these numbers, but apparently in 2018, China's hemp fiber sales was $1.2 billion from roughly 120,000 acres of hemp grown. And again, I've said it. This article said that China is probably responsible for 50%. And again, it might have been 50% of all hemp, because they're probably responsible to anywhere between 60 to 70% of the fiber. Most of the textiles that we get right now that include hemp are coming from China, and have been. We're slowly reducing those numbers as we start to grow here and we start to go to some other outlets. But obviously, they are still that was, I mean, $1.2 billion worth. And again, most of that is to import into America. I'm almost sure of it. But they were also responsible for 11% of the CBD market in 2018. And again, when we were before 2014, before anybody had heard of CBD for the most part, we were selling Chinese derived CBD. It was questionable. They do what's called a whole plant press, so they just plant in all that oil that comes out of there. And I guess there's enough concentration of CBD to do. And then, the first stuff was like almost pure. It was in a syringe. It's what they call RSHO, which was originally stands for Rick Simpson hash oil, which again, why he gets credit for this particular hash oil, I don't know, because hash has taken form in so many different ways over so many years. It's insane. And again, those initials are still a description of a process, I suppose, to make hash oil. Dabs and wax and all that stuff, that's basically just hash in a different name if you didn't know. And so the hash making process from cannabis is made a huge comeback over the last probably 10 years or so, honestly. And even though they don't call it hash, and you can still find hash, but they still, almost in every form that they're making hash, because even if they call it cannabis oil, if you get straight cannabis oil, that's really hash oil. What they would have called hash oil back in the day. Anyway. And of course, we have hash CBD or CBD hash in the stores. And so, It's kind of interesting. But again, China's been, and they're responsible, obviously, for a huge amount of CBD that's worldwide in the market. So, that's why we need to be growing. I'm not trying to take anything away from China. Get it where you get it, and hope that people are being treated fairly. And if you buy anything from China and you're disillusioned into believing anything about helping China in any way, you're wrong. I suppose I should say I'm wrong. But because they have so much control over everything, um, and their people. But you can only hope that you're supporting families and whatnot, one way or another, farmers. And again, they're the ones producing it. So until we're making it, or there's another outlet, we really, we're stuck to them for now anyway. So I'm all about growing hemp locally, and I mean, if it doesn't have to travel across an ocean, the environmental benefits are unbelievable. I don't want to deal. I don't want to say I don't want to deal with international China or whatever for not racist reasons. If anything, it's for environmental reasons. I don't really care. I am not racist. They're all humans are humans, and blah 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 blah. If we grow in America and we keep it here, then it's better environmentally. Period. But supporting local is um, just not a good thing to do for humanity or your local humanity or society. It's a good thing to do for the planet. It's got to come across the ocean in the big ship. Well, that's just more crap that's getting dumped into the ocean across the way. No doubt about it. And so, but we've always known, and I've never seen numbers out of China, but we've always known that they have dominated the the hemp textile industries in the world for the most part. Um, and then the rest of it's really kind of Europe, isolated in Europe for the most part, and little bits here and there. Um, Speaking of hemp textiles, how about a jean company out of Honduras? And again, this was all about choosing environmentally friendly products for your jeans, which is mostly was organic hemp or organic cotton, the supporting of organic cotton. But these guys actually, the company's name is Mott and Bow, Mott, and Bow Bow. And these are the Slim Stone jeans, Slim Slim Stone jeans. But it's a company out of Honduras, so check them out. If you need a pair of hemp jeans, see what they got going on. Have not gone to their website to really see what the availability is or the price. Um, I'm thinking Honduras, maybe not so expensive. It's hard to say. I guess it really depends on if they ship to the United States or if there is a outlet online in the United States for them. It's a real question. We will find out. Yes, we will. More fiber news. Troy University Center for Materials and Manufacturing Sciences and the National Hemp Growers Cooperative are going to work together to research the development of biodegradable plastics. Oh, okay. Not. I thought they were working with fiber too, but I guess they're really looking for the biodegradable plastics. Which, once again, I don't know how much research needs to go on. We've already figured it out. Um, here's. Oops. I mean, here's some right here. This is biodegradable, and we call it a composite because they say plastic is made from oil, which actually this is made from oil too. It's just hemp oil. So, but the plastic industry wants to be clear that if you call it plastic, it's got to be made from oil, petrochemically based oil. Okay, so that's why we call this a composite, the hemp composite, comparable to plastic. Okay. Um, Now, what I would like to see, as far as hopefully what they are going to study, is not what we can already do, but making, say, that thin, clear plastic that everybody seems to think they need to package their crap in that just, oh my god, just fills the landfills out of plastic that lasts forever. I mean, not to mention how hard it is to get into this stuff
Yeah.
to begin with. But you got to have a pair of scissors and some, no, I don't know, a hammer sometimes. No, um, but to think that we could replace that plastic with industrial hemp, that would be great. Right now we believe probably 70%. We can replace right out of the gate 70% of plastic. Obviously, not all that's going to be biodegradable. Not all that's going to be compostable, which is what these are. These are actually compostable and biodegradable. Um, like the hemp straws were biodegradable and compostable. But making that other 30% of the plastic that we can't currently make from industrial hemp right now out of hemp, because the goal would be to figure out how to replace 100% of petrochemically based plastic with hemp composites. And again, we just stop drilling, just leave the oil where it's at. Stop filling up these tankers full of this stuff and trucking it across the world to make stuff that we don't need to make out of it anymore. Um, one way or another. Uh, so good we'll see. Well, hopefully, again, they'll come up with some really unique plastic replacements because we can already do a lot of it. Whether it's 3D printing or injection molded. We are already doing that with hemp as it is. So we'll see what else they can come up with. Parteau. Now this is the pink shirt. This is high dollar fashion, I believe, but it's spelled Partow. Now their 2023 spring line is going to be using mercerized, and I never looked it up. I should really look up what that means. It's spelled MERCERIZED, and they're doing it with hemp and cotton. Um, I think that really there's probably just maybe a way to describe softening, because you've heard of, or I have described, and this is what Levi is doing. They're actually describing their hemp as cottonized hemp.
It says it's treated under tension with caustic alkali to impart strength and luster.
Well, I don't know if we need to do that. I don't know if it needs to be.
It's more lustrous than conventional cotton.
Interesting. I don't know why we need to do that to hemp, but okay. I get it. I guess that's what maybe why, that shirt kind of has like a sheen to it. I see it's not, it's got dust. I see where maybe by doing that, it kind of gives you a look that you wouldn't normally get from hemp or cotton. Even kind of maybe makes it even look like a silk a little bit, maybe. And so, I get it. I totally get it. We're sometimes to sell these things to the average person. Of course, none of this stuff is for the average person. The rest of these outfits were all stuff that most women wouldn't wear anyway. But I can see women wearing this shirt, no problem. But the dresses and some of the other stuff. But it's kind of interesting because the full line of fashion. Like a lot of the outfits were like literally like half and half, like they come together, and it was hemp and cotton, which again, I think is really neat to see, because we can go all the way back to the United States Navy literally putting half the sails on a ship that was American grown hemp and half the sails on the ship that was Russian grown hemp, to prove that our hemp was just as strong and good as Russian hemp when it came to sails and riggings and all these things. Well, in the fashion world, I think if you put those two fabrics, cotton and the hemp, side by side, and everything looks right, then you say, hey, we should be using more hemp. And so I appreciate them doing that in the fashion world. And again, we've seen a lot more in the fashion world of hemp materials, textiles being used one way or another. Art projects in fashion seem to be really clinging to in the jean industry. Honestly, there's a huge movement in the entire jean industry to incorporate hemp textiles in. Um, a lot for environmental reasons. Everybody's they want to take an environmental stance, and then they figure out the best way to do that is to use hemp because it's true, and then they have a superior product. So I think we'll be seeing less of the other stuff and more hemp because of that. Here is another study. The Southern Cross University in Australia is going to research. They're going to do a research project looking to improving the nutritional quality of hemp seed. This is getting backed by the Australian Research Council. They're getting a $500,000 grant to do this
Yeah.
research. Now, this is Australia, the entire country, or the entire island, just legalized industrial hemp probably 2 to 3 years ago for food products. Very new, very new. Even though you could grow hemp in certain parts of and I don't know if they're states or what they're called, but you could grow hemp there. But hemp food wasn't legal to be on the shelves up until 3 4 years ago in Australia. Now they finally have really gone full blown with it between them and New Zealand. New Zealand has taken a huge fascination with hemp seed, more to I think like supplement um, beef, make a fake hamburger, fake beef, or things like that. There's nowhere to put cattle in New Zealand, and I don't know how much really you can grow hemp, but I would think that making those food products out of hemp that they can easily get from Australia, which I think that you could grow the grain there pretty easily just about anywhere, even though it may be a little drought resistant, or it is drought resistant, which is perfect. You can get it started. I think you can probably get enough grain out of the flour without much water in the long run. And so, um, once again, food product is huge, and Australia and New Zealand are really um, in the last couple of years have really been pushing the hemp food industry, which again I think that any country honestly that really cared about was concerned about the health of their citizens should be promoting. Again, we should redo the government's food pyramid and put hemp on the top of it now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the food pyramid looks like, if they even still do that food pyramid that we all learned in school. I was like, you gotta have milk, and you gotta have beef, and you gotta have all this stuff that it's not good for human adults. And half the time it's probably not good for human children. Maybe better for human children in development stages, but not really. Milk does not make the bone stronger. That is a flat out lie. Okay. Milk does not do the body good. That is a flat out lie. Um, and I think that's why they don't use that statement anymore, is because they got checked. They're like, okay, prove that. Oh, you can't prove that. I mean, the only proof that the entire dairy industry has to back up their argument about how important dairy milk is to humans is that dairy milk has calcium in it, and humans need calcium. Okay. Well, guess what? That's a correlation. Okay. There's no causation that says that drinking cow milk makes our bones stronger. In fact, it's the opposite. It is a proven medical fact that drinking dairy milk makes human bones weaker. You say, why are you ranting so much about dairy milk all of a sudden, Beach? Well, because guess what? We can do hemp milk. And we get protein and we get all that stuff. And then you eat the right foods and your body makes the calcium that it needs to have strong bones. Okay? We shouldn't try to supplement that. We should eat the foods that forces our body to make the right calcium that our body needs to do that. So if you really have to drink milk, choose hemp milk or hemp dairy substitute beverage. Probably can't call it milk either. The milk industry's like, don't you dare call it milk. Milk has to come from a cow. Even though it says right on the like oat milk on the label, coconut milk right on the label, hemp milk. Although some of the hemp companies do actually just say hemp beverage or whatever. But if you don't know, milk is like 90% water to begin with. There's very little actual dairy in milk, and there's again very little hemp. It's only 10%. But the nutritional value is still pretty decent. If you make your use a cup of hemp seeds to make your hemp milk, there's quite a decent amount of nutritional value in a cup of hemp seeds. And the recipe is pretty simple. It's basically just water and hemp seeds. You can sweeten with natural one if you want to. Just blend it up into a drinking material and use it. I've had hemp milk that tasted a little chalky. I've had hemp milk that had a little bit. Some of the hemp milk I've had recently, and again, they're really trying to perfect it because much like we're never going to get a hamburger eater to eat a veggie hamburger unless it tastes and feels just like a hamburger. It's the same with hemp milk or substitute milk. The people that are concerned about their bodies and the planet are going to use these products. The people we're trying to convince to not use what they're currently using, the only way to do that is to give them a substitute that is comparable to what they're doing, or they will never switch. I'm not saying that. I mean, it's hard enough to get them to switch to begin with, even though you tell them you shouldn't be eating this, you shouldn't be drinking this. A lot of people are still hooked on those food industries. I just recently saw that one of the hemp seed industry or hamburger people, one of the companies like, we want to put the beef industry out of business. Then the beef industry is like, well, that's not very nice. Everybody should be allowed to be in business. And of course, we're never going to put any of these industries out of business, but we should come up with substitutes that are healthier and better for the planet as an option. And that's what's going on right now. And the 80s, I think the 70s and the 80s both destroyed agriculture and livestock industries. Honestly, they became corporate. All of a sudden, we're using more chemicals than we need to grow plants, and we're using more antibiotics and steroids and all this other stuff in livestock feed that we don't need to add. And so now we're coming full circle. It's another really good time for hemp because people want an option. They want a cleaner, better food option for their bodies. Vegetarian veganism is never been as more popular than it is now as a way of life. And hemp should be at the top of the list of all vegan and vegetarians diets. Hey, I put you on silence. Hush. And so, that's why it'll be interesting to see what now, the Australians are doing this to see how much they can tweak the current hemp grain cultivars, maybe for their soil or whatnot to get a little more protein, maybe more omega-3. I don't know. We'll see. But, this is big for the grain industry. I don't know what the Canadians have done, if anything, other than just, grow the best grain that they can find. And it seems to be working just well. I don't know if they even try to make a bigger, better seed, so to speak. But in my head, and in my work of fiction that I have written in my head, that's a big part of. We've actually made a cannabis plant fictionally, but it could be the truth that produces a hemp seed that's like this big. And then, man, you think of the nutritional value of something like that. And then so, uh, that's okay with me. Hemp is a prime for genetic modifying. You're like, no, beach, holy, no, no, not GMO. Okay. We can genetically modify through breeding with hemp. We have been genetically modifying through breeding agricultural crops since we became agrarians. Okay. There's a difference between genetically modifying and gene splicing. Okay. Um, if we do the genetic modifications through breeding, well, it's no different than what we've been doing. When 5,000 years ago, when they figured out this grain would produce a little bit more grain than this grain, we started growing this grain instead of this grain, or we started, and again with cannabis, we've been genetically modifying it through breeding for thousands of years. Once again, to get the better fiber crop, to get the better grain crop, now to get the better medicinal crop, to get the better therapeutic crop. Um, and so, I truly believe that um, uh, cannabis is the most genetically modified through breeding plant ever in the history of all agriculture. We've come up with thousands of unique subspecies of cannabis at this, but thousands. Whether it's again, there's hundreds, just so you know, for the record, hundreds already cultivars around the world accepted for grain and fiber. Okay, hundreds. That's just hundreds for grain and fiber, the real industrial part of it. But you look at, cannabis for THC or CBD at this point. Um, it's all we've been doing is genetically modifying it. So, you know, it, it seems like a brilliant study because, to me, it would just be finding all maybe the top 5, top 10 grain cultivars in the world. And then, maybe taking a male plant from this particular cultivar and a female plant from this particular cultivar, and all of a sudden you get just a slightly bigger seed. And so that's the next thing, and cannabis breeding. If I was to suggest anyone go into any specific um, genre of cannabis right now, breeding would be at the top of the list. Coming up with just like what Australia's doing, coming up with better grain seed that typical of this state's soil or this state's relative on the parallels. We know that hemp grows actually taller, higher. So that's Minnesota and those, the upper countries are better for grain for fiber or hemp for fiber. Canada does really well with hemp for grain as far up as they are, and they probably get some decent sized plants because of it. But it doesn't have to be tall if you're growing for the grain. Maybe come up with a really short grain plant that produces like this huge big bush of seeds.
Okay.
There's another possible, maybe we don't need to make the seed bigger, but we could double the amount of seeds per plant. I mean, and it already just is. It already packs its flower full. I mean, that's how it does what it does. If you've ever seen um, a grain, a hemp grain flower head, it's just basically just hundreds and hundreds of seeds, just all in there. That's about all that's left when it's done. Um, so. It's good for Southern Cross University. We'll see what they come up with in Australia, really pushing the hemp food movement, so to speak, over there with government support. Um, so good for them. How about the old National Geographic? This article comes out of National Geographic, and it's the 5 surprising ways hemp helps the planet. The first one is microbe killer. And what they're talking about, and I talked about this, maybe a month ago on the show, is that they are actually coming out with a whole new line of antibiotics that are cannabis based.
Hmm.
Because if I said 100 times, I'll say it 1,000 times. Cannabis is naturally antibacterial. It's naturally antimicrobial. Um, and now they're figuring out that uh, and the struggle is new antibiotics because we're running out of antibiotics because we're becoming resistant. We're becoming antibiotic resistant. Here's a whole nother new one. Um, that's natural. It's not made in a lab synthetically. Uh, grown out in the field, and can possibly keep us healthy. All right, that sounds good. That sounds right. The number two on the National Geographic list is Pit Stop Visitor. You're thinking, what? Pit Stop Visitor? Well, again, talked about it a lot. How about cars? Cars made of hemp, cars that can run on hemp. The one thing they talked about in the article was reducing the weight of vehicles using hemp fiber. They didn't even mention hemp fuel, in all honesty. And again, I think as much as we have always touted people have always touted the use of hemp fuel. Um, you know, I don't want to promote liquid fuel anymore, but hemp seed oil you can grow in a field and then throw in your tank and get your engine to run makes a lot more sense. It's like the original diesels, which were biodiesels. You can do that with a diesel engine now. You can put hemp oil in it and run it. So, you can basically build a whole car from the ground up using industrial hemp, which is a sustainable, eco-friendly product. Um, Number three, already talked about this a couple times on the show. It's a wonder textile. That's right. Don't wonder anymore. I'm going to tell you. 4 to 6 times stronger than cotton, requires no herbicides or pesticides. If you can get 12, 15 feet out of the plant, that's continuous fiber up through there. Can be woven together. Hemp can be woven as smooth as silk or as rough as burlap. That's another myth, or it probably isn't a myth. It's just something that we've conquered when it comes to hemp. It is no longer has to be rough. It no longer has to be thick. It no longer, you know, and of course we are, mixing a lot of hemp with cotton to help keep it a little thinner. But it's really just weaving the hemp into the right size strand to make whatever textile you want to make, whether it's silk or linen or burlap or canvas. So, canvas, the root word of canvas is cannabis. That's a fact. Um, and so it is a wonder textile, and we wonder why there's not more of it. Number four, a thirst quencher. Now, this is kind of fun. I talked about the Swiss. The Swiss have upped their CBD content in their plants, or their THC content in their industrial hemp plants to 1%. They've also created a beer replacing 75% of the hops with hemp flowers. I say it is almost indistinguishable from beer. Like, you cannot tell by drinking it that it was actually made with hemp flowers. You're like, come on. Well, guess what? Science says this is true. Because if you don't know, hops, and I just mentioned this last week, hops and cannabis are in the same family, plant wise. Okay. And so uh, this is a whole twist on hemp beer, that's for sure. Uh, but I'm definitely super curious about this one uh, as far as replacing the hops with hemp flowers. And again, I'm going to start spreading the word amongst the breweries that the Swiss have done this, and Maybe because again they were doing this with industrial hemp flowers, not cannabis, so to speak, or THC, high THC flowers. They were doing this with industrial hemp. So once again, that THC level would be super low, but still maybe present. Maybe I don't know if that puts the CBD from the industrial hemp flower beer or not, which is also I'm very interested to know. What crosses over from the hemp flower when they use hemp flower for to replace the hops? What comes out of that hemp flower and into the beer to make that, or what? Not the flavor, but the actual chemical compound. So, uh, this is the very, very interesting. And, this, I can't believe that the Swiss are really the first to really do this maybe a semi large scale or with success when, the correlation between hops and cannabis has been around for a long I shouldn't say correlation. They're in the same family. The family uh, resemblance um, has been known for a long time. And so I cannot wait to see some, go down and talk to my local brew. Of course, you don't want to do it in Ohio because then you're going to have to pay some stupid licensing and just crazy fees and whatnot. But Colorado seems like perfect. I mean, there's a lot of beer that comes out of Colorado.
Yeah.
How is someone in Colorado not brewing hemp flower, making a hemp flower beer? Come on, leave it to the Swiss. That's why they're so happy. That's why they're rated the happiest country in the world, as they keep coming up with these great ideas. Oh, shit. Um, and then the number 5 is the protein bomb. That's right. I've talked about that in the show already. The fact that hemp foods, now they say, and they're taking it a little bit too far in this article. It's National Geographic. You want to take their word. But they say that hemp seed is as much protein as beef. Not quite. Now, it might have almost as much protein as just chicken or some of the other meats out there. Not beef, so to speak, but it's still very high and close. I don't, I had a periodic, I'm going to find my periodic table of protein. And, hemp was, other than spirulina, hemp was the highest plant based protein on the entire chart. And then again, comparable to some meats over on, where they were listing the protein content of the meat. It was a pretty neat little chart. This chart came out of Science. It was a science magazine. Okay. It wasn't a food magazine. It wasn't a hemp magazine. This was actually made by this periodical table of protein was actually made by, it was either uh, Popular Mechanics or Popular Science. I'm not sure which one. I'll have to find it. I used to have it hanging on the wall. I don't see it over there anymore, but it's around here somewhere. And again, it broke down the protein content um, per weight, so to speak, of, it was probably, it looked just like a real periodic table. So it was a lot of vegetative and meats on this chart. And again, you can't question the protein content. It's huge. It's more than soy. And again, when we compare it to soy as far as vegetative, uh, there's a digestive issue. Flax is up there too. It's good, but um, we digest hemp. I mean, so when our body gets the nutritional value that it's supposed to out of it, one way or another. All right, maybe you're looking for some carbon credits. Well, guess what? Carbon credits for hemp are, I don't know if they're, I believe that they mentioned they are available. There's a couple ways that they mentioned something called biochar, and that's um, taking the waste and processing it to reduce the carbon, which I don't know why we need to do. Or hemp itself is carbon negative. I would think that if you were just growing hemp for whatever purpose, you could get some carbon credits. Now, I'm not a big fan of this carbon credit thing because, in my opinion, and this has been proven in a study that was unrelated to this, but the fact of the matter is if you give someone the option to pay as a penalty, then if it's cost efficient, then they will pay the penalty and go along with their bad behavior. Okay. Now, this was all done, the study was actually done on humans and childcare and parents, and the school parents were always late. And so the school decided to give the parents a fee. Well, as soon as they had actually enacted this fee for being late, more parents were late and just rationalized paying the money to be late to pick up their kid. I think it would be the exact same thing for a company who's doing something bad for the planet to say, well, we're not going to stop doing this bad thing for the planet. We're going to buy carbon credits and make ourselves say, oh, well, we're environmentally friendly because we're doing this, even though we're really just offsetting the damage. You're not making up for the damage. You're just offsetting the damage. So you continue to do the damage and then you just pay for it. And that should not be the way any business looks at the planet or doing destruction to the planet. Because we all know that if they have the money, then yes, they'll just pay the fees, they'll pay the fines, pay the carbon offset, and then continue to do the bad things that they're doing. Um, Hemp is a brilliant idea. And again, I think that you should get some type of, I think there should be an environmental credit on your taxes. And if you choose to use environmentally friendly practices, then you get a credit. Because, here's the deal, folks, in the long run. Destroying the planet doesn't do businesses any good. It doesn't do humans any good in the long run. When we continue to do it, guess what? Okay, we just destroy ourselves, we destroy the planet. The planet still be here, and we'll probably recover just fine. But guess what? We won't. That's the whole environmental argument, is the fact that if the planet gets to the wrong place, we can't survive here. We won't survive here. I don't care what we do. Was that really going to happen? I don't know. I'm no Chicken Little. But I will say that we have spent the last 100 or 200 years really messing up the environment for humans to enjoy. So it's only logical that we do something about it now. It's not an environmental issue. It's a humanity issue. It's a society issue. It's a longevity issue. Won't have any of that if we don't do the right thing now. And hemp can play a big part in that. That's why we do what we do. You're on the High Noon Hemp Show and at Hemptations, and supporting all my hemp lovers in the world, giving them new hemp to love one way or another. All right, well, that's all the news out there. Now, this first event, which is actually happening in a week or so, I think I've sent you a picture over for this.
I believe so.
This is called the Curso Bioconstrucción Canamo. And if you don't know, canamo is the Spanish word for hemp. So this is happening in Colombo. This is, I believe, a 3-day construction workshop happening in Medellin, Colombia. Again, this is next weekend, I believe. So if you're anywhere near there and you want to go enjoy learn about some hemp construction, I want to thank Winkin Hemp over in West Virginia for posting this event. He has done so much for hemp. He's now a hemp importer of textiles himself, and they've got a couple shops over there. But from the beginning, I've always loved what they do, because he's always been a he's got a little bit of everything in his shops. From paper to textile, just the way we set it up and the way a real hemp shop would set it up. And so I like to support anything that they support. That's for sure. Uh, 24th, next we got the Hemp in the Holler. That's a big one. I'm going to be out of town. I can't even go to that. But it's down at the Music Hall of Fame and Museum in Mount Vernon, Kentucky. September 24th, you've got the Hemp, Hops, and Shrooms outdoor event in Carbondale, Illinois. Um, this just added to the lineup. Maybe you're over in France. You'd like to go to the International Hemp Building Symposium. That's October 11th through the 12th. If you don't know, France is the only country in the world that never stopped growing industrial hemp or hemp. This is going to happen in La Capelle Marvel, a company named ISO Hemp, which they started in 2012. They make prefab hemp blocks. They are now up to producing 1 million units a year of prefab hemp blocks. That's huge. That's 10 years of being in business. Huge. And again, hemp construction. France has very strict construction rules as far as how you can rebuild, or it's all got to be pretty basic for the most part and environmentally friendly and all these things. And that's why hemp really works well. They were building, or still do, I suppose, all their little police buildings, little gendarme buildings where they kind of hang out in the cities and whatnot. Those were all made out of hemp. Hemp cigarette papers. Most of them are produced cigarette papers. Most of them cigarette papers are produced in France, and they use hemp in those as well. They have a long, long history of industrial hemp, and a history of construction in industrial hemp, insulation companies, and hempcrete, and all those things. Afromat is going to be there. Now, if you probably don't remember, but Afromat is actually responsible, and I talked about this maybe 3 or 4 months ago, about the hotel project. This is the largest hempcrete construction project in the world right now. It's a 10 or 12 story hotel being built in Cape Town. They're going to be at the International Hemp Building Symposium talking about what they're doing and their techniques. And again, this is huge. And now there are residential buildings in Paris made out of hempcrete. I don't think they're as tall as 10 stories, but I've done a story on that, where the residents of these buildings say for the insulation purposes alone of using hemp, it really helps in the winter and the summers, both. And so that's pretty interesting. And then another company out of Canada, Eighth Fire Innovations. They are going to be at the symposium talking about their product. It's called Davita, and it's blocks and panels made out of hempcrete, I believe. And so, once again, hemp construction, using hemp in construction materials, to me, is one of the most popular, sought after things currently that hemp can do. Which, again, we made hemp legal, and I almost instantly noticed after hemp became legal in the United States, and I've always had construction in my speech as a part of my speech as to what we can do with it. I've never seen so much interest and questions afterward on actual hemp construction, which is great. Again, the interest and the desire and the want and need to use hemp in construction is all there. And once again, we're proving that almost weekly by talking about new construction being done with hemp, companies that are processing, companies just like these companies that are making the products that you need to build out of hemp if you want to prefab wise. Um, and so there's definitely no lack in interest of that. And if you get over to France, it's coming up pretty quickly for the International Hemp Building Symposium. Might be worth it if you're thinking about doing it, or you have a construction company. The obstacle right now is in the United States, we have to get it approved for larger scales. Right now they don't. I don't believe they approve any weight bearing walls. So right now, what we really do, instead of just a solid concrete wall, you still have to put a frame and then you spray the hemp in there, and that works just as well. But I think that I think for high rises or taller buildings, bigger buildings, the United States isn't yet approved hempcrete to be used in those situations. So again, these international companies that are doing it, I really feel like once this hotel is built in Cape Town, I don't know why there would be any question as to whether the viability of doing it or not, because they are doing it. So can only hope for the best there. All right, folks. Appreciate everybody watching, whether you're watching live or maybe you're watching later. This has been the High Noon Hemp Show. Remember, reduce, reuse, recycle. Make everything else out of hemp. Having temptations.
See you all next week.